without a doubt, I think it's by far the best league in the world.
How dare you score like that in the Premier League? Mission accomplished in the Premier League. The American
Nostalgia. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of ASTV's Premier League show, Match Week 11. I am joined by a first-timer on the Premier League show with us today, our good friend Cozzy. Cozzy, how you doing, my friend?
I'm good, mate, yeah. Just here to fill in, you know. Sounds like you needed someone who knows what they're talking about, so that's why I'm here.
It's helpful. It's helpful to have someone who knows what they're talking about on the show, and because that gives them one more than this guy. I will say, as I watch that intro every time, it reminds me we really need a new video, seeing that none of those players in the intro are any longer in the Premier League. Not the Norwich players, not Naby Keita, not Antonio Rudiger, like literally, not Will Saha. Not a single player in that video is still in the league, but that almost makes it more entertaining and a little bit more American Scouser-esh. So, Kaz, we're going to get into this one, man. What you got it right there with what a weird weekend. And we are going to recap it. So let's start like we always do, kind of a round-robin look here. We always pick out 3 or 4 matches. We're going to stick away from today's just absolute nightmare of an afternoon for a match official. I do feel for Michael Oliver. It feels like anything that can explode in this league explodes when Michael Oliver is in charge of it. That might also mean that Michael Oliver needs to work on his man management skills. Yeah. Let's touch on a couple of these matches, and let's start with the first one of the weekend. The lunchtime kickoff over in England, the Breakfast Classic here on Saturday. Everything but a classic. Fulham hosting United. Match was dire.
Yeah.
Like, just really awful.
Yeah. Just, you know, Fulham, I expected more from Fulham, if I'm being honest. You know, I thought it was a good time for them to play United, especially at home. Early kick-off kind of thing and try and catch them cold. But Fulham were poor as well, Gal. It just wasn't really, you know, an entertaining game, which I wasn't expecting, you know, a thriller by any stretch. But I expected a little bit more quality in the game. You know, they got there in the end. United, they get a win. And I was probably one of the Liverpool fans who was kind of happy that they kind of won because Ten Hag, the pressure was on him. And the longer he stays in the job, I think that's better for Liverpool in a really weird way. I bet like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer when he just kept plodding along for like 3 years. Before, you know, he's been there for like 3 years and you're like, has he? It feels like 9 months. But he just kept, you know, surviving every time, every time the pressure was going on, he'll string 3 wins together. Everyone forgets about it. Then the pressure will come back on. And that's what he'd done for like 3 years. So that was something that kind of felt like that. I want to get your opinion on this, though, mate. Do you think the keeper could do better with the Bruno shot? Because I think he could do better with the shot, you know.
I think it should have been saved. I think it was a weak. I think it's weak. There's some that say it might have taken a deflection or that it didn't look like it did to me. I thought the keeper should do better, and I think Leno's actually a good keeper. Kind of got hard done at Arsenal. Classic Arsenal, right? You run out a keeper who's playing pretty well, bring in another keeper who earns the shot just to run him out for a guy who makes mistakes. But I do think Leno should have done better in that spot. I also think if we look at Ten Hag from the management standpoint, and I don't want to even ask the question to a kid who grew up in Liverpool if you were a United supporter, because that's not fair. That's like asking me if you rooted for the Yankees, and I'd respond to like, yeah, well, at one point the Taliban was taking applications to Americans. Like, what the fuck's wrong with you? I'm never rooting for the Yankees. But if you were a United supporter and your manager is running out Johnny Evans and Harry Maguire, and I don't rate Rafael Varane. I'm going to be honest. I never thought Rafael Varane was a great central defender. I always thought he was made to look better when he was playing alongside a great defender for France and alongside Sergio Ramos. It makes it easier when the guy next to you is so much better than you. Yeah. But he has to be better than this iteration of Johnny Evans, right? Like to start Maguire and Evans in the Manchester Derby and then come back and do it again a week later against Fulham. Is this Ten Hag sticking it to the board, sticking it to the players, or just saying, honestly, guys, I have no fucking clue what to do here?
I think you're probably right on all of the above, really. My thing with Varane is right. I think he's very much the bridesmaid and never the bride. And that's, it's not like he's not a good defender. He is. He's solid. But Joe Matip, when he was solid, also needed Virgil van Dijk. And Nemanja Vidic also needed Rio Ferdinand. Because if you actually go back and watch clips of Nemanja Vidic, I think he gets really, really put into a high regard where he shouldn't be. And I think he's that type of defender. Again, no disrespect. He was great at Madrid, but as you said, he was playing alongside a generational defender. So the Maguire and Everton thing is interesting because he's starting Leicester City centre halves from 5 years ago. And Leicester City are now playing in the Championship. And now they're starting centre half for Man United. So the Evans thing at 36, if Varane is fit, you feel like he had to play. Doesn't matter how much fitness you've got, even if you can get an hour out of him kind of thing. But then again, the manager will go, hey, we got a clean sheet. And they hardly created any chances. Because that's the problem. Because if you're a manager answering these questions, and I'm sure we'll touch on Liverpool a bit later, it kind of winning football matches and getting clean sheets in the sense that he'll go, well, it disregards everything that you say. And that's what he would feel like, I think. The one there's plenty of concerns to Ten Hag, I think, that he's got. The one thing that the fans, I feel like, they just don't want to change the manager right now because they've had enough of it. I just think they're going, you know what, we'll rather go through the shit and just see what happens at the end of this rainbow kind of thing. Because he has won a trophy, whether we like it or not, he has won a trophy. And listen, I'd love Liverpool to win that trophy this season. So I feel like that's where the fans are. But the difference is, because people always go, oh, well, you give Klopp time and stuff like that kind of conversation. But Unai Emery is proving that wrong. Eddie Howe is proving that wrong. Postecoglou is proving that wrong. You can come in and get a certain style set in place. I love Ten Hag's pre-match conference before the game. He's going, I can't play like the way I did against Ajax because I've got different players. Hey, bro, you were brought in on the back of what you've done at Ajax. You went, like, do you know what I mean? Like, you were brought in because you did this at Ajax, and now you come in and went, disregard everything I've done at Ajax.
And you'd almost argue what he did at Ajax was improve players by actually coaching them to be better footballers. And we can talk about how Klopp needed time to buy players, and he did. But he made Divock Origi, who was in his starting first day lineup, a better footballer after he became his manager. Yeah. He made Jordan Henderson a much better footballer. He made James Milner a better footballer, and the guy might be older than Klopp. I mean, let's be real. So at some point, you have to coach him up. And I question whether or not he just can't actually connect with the players. He can't motivate them to listen to what he's doing to get better. And maybe he bought himself a slug in Amrabat who looks literally like he's too slow to play in Italy, let alone play in the midfield in England. Maybe Mason Mount really was damaged goods coming out of Chelsea mentally. I still think Mason Mount's biggest mistake was he needed a change of scenery and needed to be reinvigorated in his career. And he went to the absolute worst place for that. He went to the only club maybe less functional than the dysfunction he was leaving at Chelsea.
Yeah.
With more pressure.
True.
So it's like, you buy Eriksen. Both of us wanted Eriksen last year, but we wanted him on a free at the moment they got him. And then United want to slot him into their starting midfield every single day and ask him to play a position his body can't do anymore. So it's just bad man management all around. It feels like when it comes to them.
Yes, and listen, everything you just said is true. The improvement of players, he's probably only improved one, which is Wan-Bissaka, because he actually looks like an half-decent right-back right now. But he's probably the only one. The problem, I think his Ajax argument is, though, there was a lot of kids that he brought through, like De Ligt, Gravenberch, and these kind of players, and you can get on board then. These lads can now get on board with you. But he also sprinkled like a Dusan Tadic, who was at Southampton, and then he brought him back, and then he looks like a world beater and stuff like that. The problem is, though, mate, we've had this conversation with various of the managers at United, with these players. Phil Jones left last summer. He was signed by Sir Alex Ferguson. It was like 10, 11 years ago. Every single player has been signed by all these different managers. I'm not saying he hasn't been backed, or I'm not saying he hasn't had enough players. He has. He's had enough players. But there's also some... He wanted Maguire out the door. We know that. He wanted him out the door at West Ham. He wanted him gone. So I also think his biggest problem, I think, and his biggest hindrance, apart from the obvious that there's no style of play, is his Anthony signing. Because you wanted Anthony. Whether forget the money that was paid, 100 million, whatever it was, right, in the end, right? You wanted this player. He was your marquee signing that you wanted. Bearing in mind, that was a right-hand side player when they bought Jadon Sancho 12 months before, who was probably the best player in the Bundesliga when they signed him. So then they've went, so the owners or whoever that, I can't remember the new guy's name, Richard someone, the new chief exec or whatever his name is, chairman, Richard Arnold, his name is. And he's probably went, okay, so we've got 80, 90 million sewn up in one of the best young English right wingers here, but you want your guy that you play with at Ajax. Okay, well, I've got your guy, but the problem is your guy's the most box standard winger I've ever seen in my life. Like, it does nothing special. I can find you 50 other wingers in the whole world who does what he does, which is nothing. So, and now you bombed out the other guy who's probably got more sell-on value and probably a higher ceiling, and you bombed him out because you fell out with him, because you called him out about his training technique. This way of managing does not work in 2023. Players just want to play for someone who's sound. That's the problem. Like, the Klopp thing is mad. Like, Postecoglou's unbelievable. They go, oh, this is handball and all that. They're not doing much. I watch Spurs every week. They're just passing the ball around, look like they're having a lovely little time. Right, because do you know why? Because Andrew's going out to them and going, fucking hell, I'm a sound fat. Lads, just go out and play well, enjoy yourselves, you know. I'm a cool guy, you know what I mean? Kind of thing. There's a few tactics, of course, no one's arguing that. But it's not like, oh my God, he's revolutionised Spurs. Do you know what I mean?
It's just not Antonio Conte. So they feel like they're actually caring about playing. And now a guy like Basuma plays well and Sarr plays well. And they were gutted out of the team. They thought they had no futures at the club. And now they get a breath of fresh air comes through. They get a chance. And before you know it, they'll be integrating Brennan Johnson into this. It'll get better for Spurs. Now they need to buy, because you see it today. They don't have the quality to win this league, but they have the quality to compete at the top half. And all it took was putting someone in place that allowed the players to believe that you can go make this happen. Now, Madison helped a lot. That was a huge signing. But we're going to see. And the keeper is really, really good, as we saw today, who is by far the best player on the pitch for them, in my opinion. So let's talk a little bit here about the Liverpool match.
Go on, mate. The match. Go on.
Want to talk a little bit about that Liverpool match. It was disappointing, obviously. You don't win the league going to Luton. We've talked about this. Draws in this league are brutal. Draws to teams that don't belong in the league are unheard of.
Yeah.
When you look at the match, when you play it back in your head now, how's that point resonating with you and sitting? And what would you have liked to have seen done differently tactically throughout the match that might have led to the win? Because I can't really think of anything specifically, because I almost felt like the manager, between the injuries and Diaz, you know, the personal stuff going on, he almost picked the 11 he had to pick based on who was fit and who was available to play 90 minutes for him. I know you would have wanted Gakpo in for Nunez. Let's not go there yet. But in all seriousness, you know, Nunez had a very off day. Mo had an off day. Szoboszlai had a very, very off day. I mean, for me, as bad as Nunez was, and he was bad, Szoboszlai was up there too, though. He turned the ball over all over the pitch and never once looked like he was creating anything. And against teams like Luton, we need our midfield creators to actually create.
Yeah, definitely. But if you're the manager, he walks off and goes, I created 4 or 5 clear-cut chances there. And that's the difference. So as much as they didn't play well, I thought McAllister was poor again. It's not the first time I've seen him be poor as well. But he was poor. And I've had enough of this thing of, well, he's playing in the wrong position. It doesn't mean you can pass the Luton players all the time. So,
exactly.
You know what I mean? As much as you are playing in the wrong position, and, you know, no one's going to fault you for that, but it is what it is. The point now looks bad. It does look poor. It's 2 points dropped. but the results have went our way. Really, Arsenal losing, Spurs losing. You can argue City, but City are always going to be Bournemouth at home anyway, so that's no great shakes kind of thing. Even Villa losing is kind of benefits Liverpool if we are in a top 4 race. So the points look like 2 points dropped, but if City go and play them on a Monday night, I'd be interested. Do you get what I'm saying? Because I always think it's timing of fixtures. Liverpool, there is just an awful time in a fixture to go to Kenilworth Road, live on TV, the first big club to go there, and it's just happened. Liverpool have wrote their own narrative. The narrative was written before the game, and Liverpool have played into the narrative again, like we do always with these promoted sides away from home. We play into the narrative. So, for example, when City went to Burnley on the first day of the season, everyone was going, you don't want to go to Burnley, their first game, and then you just go out and bash them 3-0 because you don't play into the narrative. They're not interested in your narrative and your stories that you want to write, but Liverpool are. That's my frustrating part sometimes. In terms of tactically, I'm banging into Joe Gomez playing left back. I thought he was fine. I get the width part, and Liverpool were lacking width massively. The manager did change it for Costas, but I don't think he was great when he came on either. But it comes down to, mate, and we'll get into it a little bit as Darwin Núñez. You can't miss chances like that. It's all well engaged, we can all have laughs and we can all have pats on the back and right go, but you can't miss chances like that in the Premier League. Because when Liverpool win, we can all laugh at the 3 chances that he's missed because he scores 1, Liverpool win 2-1, and then it's all a big laugh and we all have a big tweet about it. Oh my God, Captain Chaos! Mate, you're missing 3. He shot him 3 yards out at 0-0. I'm sorry, it's not good enough.
Oh, I'll give you the second half one. The second half one's pitiful. The
first half one's still poor, mate, for the top level striker. Tap the ball.
It is. I think the first one, the only thing I'll give him the first one and the first half is purely the fact he takes it over his shoulder, off his chest, and it's a volley without it hitting the ground. And I've seen that missed by so many different strikers, including, we've seen it some of our great ones. Mo misses them regularly where he's running into a ball, takes it down first time, first touch isn't there. The second half one, there's no excuse to miss. Now, I don't believe that Mo's actually trying to lay it off to him. I think Mo actually misses blatantly, and that almost catches Darwin by surprise but it's a terrible look. It's terrible because you have to be ready for it no matter what. And even if Mo didn't mean to send it to you and it just falls off his face, you still have to put it in the back of the net.
Yeah.
And to me, I thought him and Mo were both very poor and wasteful. I mean, the fact that Mo's first shot on target, I think, comes in like the 80th minute of the whole match. He just didn't even seem like he was in the match. I don't know if that had as much to do with with how poor Szoboszlai was playing behind him at times.
Yeah.
And really, and I hate doing this because I got to go on a podcast at 8:00 and listen to Timuchin talk about how much he hates Trent in the inverted right, fullback position. But I'll tell you what, the more you watch it, the more it looks like it isn't working. And I know you made a great point in Discord, like we've won of what feels like 150 games on a bounce without the Spurs game since we did it. But I don't know that we're winning it because of that as much as we are some of the other great things we're doing. I still feel like when Trent gets out wide, he creates more opportunity and he looks disinterested when he's not the focal part of the entire offense. And I just don't feel he is anymore. And I think that, to your point earlier, we talk about McAllister and we talk about his performances. He almost looks lost as well between do I go forward? Do I sit back? We don't want to go. We got plenty of time for all the transfer speculation before January, but obviously Andre's, the Fluminense, they won themselves the big trophy. He stayed. I know both me and you thought that it was kind of cool that a player for once said, no, I got a job to finish and I'm going to finish it.
Yeah.
I really hope that there is smoke to the fire of him coming in because statistically, he's been the best player in South America for the last year.
Yeah.
He's the only Brazilian player to get a start for the national team while playing in the domestic league in Brazil in the last year as well, which is pretty cool, which means that they have faith in him. So that means his talents translate. And I know everyone's like, oh, Arsenal's in on him now. I'd like to believe that if we were really in and we were close to signing him in the summer, we could get him across the line in January. If the funds are there, he looks like the player that is needed.
Yes.
Because we need a true number 6 that's actually built to play the position, in my opinion. Or am I just too far removed from loving the days of having the destroyer in Fabinho that you didn't have to worry about, that just did his job all match long, and you didn't talk about him all week long, and then you credit him for winning titles at the end of the season?
No, I don't think you are wrong, and I don't think the club's wrong, because that's why they bid 110 million for Moses Caicedo.
Yep.
So the club know they need a number 6. Because otherwise you don't go and bid and go and break all your transfer records by exponential amount of money, by the way, like 40 million more than what you've paid for other players. So the club know they need a number 6. I think the club were kind of thinking, well, if it's going to be Moses, if it's going to be Andre, but if an opportunity arises. But the manager says that consistently in press conferences. If the opportunity arises, we'll always be in for these type of players. When the Moses Caicedo opportunity did arise, they were in for him. They were like, yeah, we're going to bid the biggest money we've ever bid on a player before. So Liverpool know they need a number 6. The point is, though, now for this week, though, for the Reds, it's pivotal. You play Toulouse, you've got to win the game. Whether you have to win this football match to get the 2 other games off, where you can play the kids and just finish top and get it out the way. You play Brentford at home before your international break. McAllister's suspended. So the manager has a choice. Do you go, we're doing Endo for the 2 games, and he's going to do City? Because McAllister, don't forget, he is away with the international side again. The last time he came away with the time before, that was the Wolves away game, and he got hooked after 45 minutes.
So pitiful.
And
it was so bad.
He probably tired himself. He was horrific. So the manager already has a ready-made excuse lined up to Alexis if he wants to have that chat with him. You're not playing me because you're poor last time, and this is the reason why, blah, blah, blah. But I'm going to bring you on the 70 in your forward position. And it might be, you know what I mean? That could be the conversation that way. So the manager has a decision to make. We all want to win the league title. With Liverpool, we want to win the league title. It's unrealistic for Liverpool to win the league title anyway, but we do have half a chance. You're 3 points behind City. You can go above City if you beat them, or like goal difference in the bye, whatever. But if you beat them, of course, you still got to beat Brentford. But I expect Liverpool to beat Brentford at Anfield because we beat most teams at Anfield. So we're in a fine position. It's not ideal. And going back to your point at the start, teams who are going to win the league don't draw to Luton. But I'll fire back to you at this and go, teams who are going to win the league don't lose to Wolves. And City lost.
I was just going to say, they don't lose to Wolves. They don't drop points.
This is my thing now, right? We're all used. This is the problem with football, I think, before we move on. We're all used now to City getting 100 points. And we should be, because they always get in the mid to late 90s. But this could be a season where they don't. And it just could go back to being normal and a team wins it on 85. That could happen. City do have the Club World Cup, by the way. People keep forgetting that. Where Liverpool, I keep saying this, could be 7 points clear of City by the time they go. Or by the time they come back and they go, fucking hell, we've got 3 games in hand, but you've got to win them all now. Because someone's 7 points clear at the top of the league and we've got to win them all. So it's a long way to go. It's still early doors. Liverpool are still finding their feet. We still only lost 1 game in 28, I think it is now. And that was the Spurs game, which you can kind of write off. So I am still positive, mate. But I'll tell you right now, I'll start Goldie Capo every single game, even if he's only got 1 leg over Darwin Núñez.
I know you will. I'm not sure Klopp will, but I know you will.
The manager will get there.
The manager will get there. I love it when Cozzy acknowledges that the manager will eventually get to the same level of knowledge of football as he does.
Definitely.
I love it. So speaking of people without knowledge of football, those that like to administer VAR. So we've had another weekend of doozy performances, and we're going to spend a good amount of time, probably the last 10 or 15 minutes of the show, before we preview for next week, talking about today's debacle of a match, which I think could have had its own 1-hour Premier League session. Like, you could probably do a 2-hour session on the 90 minutes of football and still not have enough time to talk through everything that happened today. But when we start to look at the VAR decisions of the weekend, so taking aside personal bias or either side of it, when you were you watching the Newcastle Arsenal match live?
Yes.
So when you saw the 12.5-minute review that went through, I think, 14 different phases of play. One, why do they even do a goddamn VAR on a ball going out of bounds when they never have an actual angle of a camera that could ever definitively tell you. So every time they do that, where they show the ball hanging over, the announcer says, well, we don't really have a view here that would tell us it's out of bounds. So we know that they're not going to overturn that one. So my first question to you, after they determine that the ball doesn't go out,
Yeah.
did you feel that there was enough there on Joe Linton to actually rule the goal off for the foul on the defender, for the push in the back, the hands on the back, whatever you wanted to call it, before even getting to the offsides decision? Did you think it should have been chalked off for a foul on Joe Linton?
Yes. Yes. And I understand that Sky Sports are in the bed with the PGMOL, and they have to be very referee focused right now, where referees can't do no wrong. But that is a foul all day of the week. If anyone's jumping or played the sport, if someone puts kind of two hands even on your back, you'll feel it anyway, because your momentum pushing you forward anyway to head the ball away. And he's literally two arms are full straight out. It's a foul. It just is a foul.
That's where I came. I thought as soon as I saw that second view where you could see his arms extended, if they're close and it's just like he's jumping and they, it looks like the hands could be on the back, but as soon as they go away from the body and then you actually see the defender actually get smaller, I just don't know how they don't chalk that off. Now, I have to admit, the argument on the offsides was harder and harder to understand what they were arguing on, because it didn't appear to be offsides to me, because the defender was on the other side because he was being pushed into the goal. But the whole rule about being behind the keeper, to me, that felt very convoluted. Like, I didn't understand once they said it wasn't a foul on Joe Linton, I thought, oh, that's a good goal. It seemed like people were more up in arms on the offsides call than they were the foul. And I feel like they just missed the plot.
Yeah, I agree. I don't understand that. It also looks like to me that Joe Linton headers the ball back. It also looks like it comes off the side of his head, and it's kind of like back anyway. So what's the argument? I don't understand sometimes anymore, mate. I really don't. But yeah, it's for me, it's not offside. I think the ball is in play. I think it's not offside, but I think it's a foul. They were my three things, and I've come on, watching it live. I was like, 2 out of 3 kind of thing for Newcastle in their favour, but they of course got 3 out of 3 because of the foul. But there's also an argument here, mate, and I get the I'm sure we'll get onto Arteta's statements and stuff like that in this game.
So that's where we're going next, yeah. So feel free to take us there.
Right. But Kai Havertz should have been sent off. In my opinion, Kai Havertz.
How's that not a red card? And I understand what the ref says, that when you slow it down and when you actually watch it, the foot doesn't come up as high. He starts a tackle with a full lunge less than a foot away. I thought we removed the result from the effect. I thought it was about the intent, and there was an intent to injure on that play. And it's this close that the Newcastle player doesn't have. Was it Matty Longstaff or Sean Longstaff? Right, one of the Longstaff brothers who won't be good enough to play for Newcastle in another year. One of them literally could have had their entire career taken out from under him, because it was that close to a leg breaker.
And I agree, and so I feel like that's why the statement's interesting, and Arteta's argument. And I get the goal argument, and I completely understand that. I think it's a foul anyway, and I'm sure we'll definitely get into the hypocrisy of what he's talking about. But I also think Bruno should have been sent off. Like, it's definitely an elbow. Like, what are you watching? Do you know what I mean?
And that to me, I think this is where I started this conversation with VAR, right? Knowing we would get here to the Lego helmet himself. And anyone who has listened to our podcast know I have no love lost for Mikel Arteta. I didn't like the player. I didn't like the player at Everton. I didn't like the player at Arsenal. I didn't like the player at City. I didn't like the assistant coach at City, and I don't like the manager at Arsenal. Like, something about this guy rubs me wrong. Maybe it's that he looks a little bit like me. Maybe it's that he's just looks like a twat. He absolutely looks like a kid you would kick in the ankles. You would want to fight on the playground. And I think his hypocrisy is what makes me so upset. And, there was a funny saying when he first took over, that he coached as if like everyone loved him because he was so passionate and he was ready to kick every ball. And then, like, I think it was like his first 20 matches in charge, they literally had like 7 red cards. And I felt like the players on the pitch were almost taking the persona from the manager in the box. Like, he was maniacal in the box, the way he treated officials, fourth officials, other coaches. And I feel like his players in some ways have kind of lost. They lose a little bit of their own comportment on the pitch based on the way he acts on the sideline. And I think in some ways that's how I credit Liverpool supporters and players, because I think the Liverpool players know Klopp is a madman, but know he's doing it because it's part of the game and it's part of his shtick. And they're like, we can't match his intensity. If we do that, we'll be in trouble. And I think when you have a young coach like this who hasn't figured it out, it's actually a detriment to your team. And I kind of think you see it anytime they're close and tight, I feel like they lose. Yeah. And this is one of those prime matches. And I really think this could be a big one for them and for Newcastle. But with regards to his exact statements, you know, we all know as Liverpool supporters, he was one of the managers who was adamant that Liverpool basically needed to just shut up and deal with the Spurs outcome. And this is an Arsenal manager watching Spurs go top the table, probably because he didn't think they were real competition until they could draw into his building with them. And ultimately saying, like, nah, get over it. So at what point does this hypocrisy, like, should more managers be looking to toe the line of the league and the actual credibility of the match day officials? Or should these clubs who are willing to go out and back their manager when they call things a sham and a disgrace because they lost a match, not wear a little egg on their face when it happens to another club in the country and they all scream, hey, mistakes happen, just move on and stop whining about it? Is this karma coming back to rue? Or is it guys just not recognizing until it affects them the importance of these bad decisions and how they impact the overall game?
It's such a balance, I think, mate. Listen, I thought Arteta's interview was actually great, to be honest. I like managers showing passion and saying what you really think instead of coming out and just saying the old gambits that we always hear from managers, you know what I mean? So the issue that we have here is that it's still a subjective decision. Liverpool's was not subjective. It's fact. Luis Diaz is onside. It's a fact. Well, now other people, I know there's other, Carragher and Neville, for example, prominent pundits in the UK, thought that wasn't a foul. I thought it was. Same with yourself. So that's where subjectivity comes in.
Yep.
If he had been on the wrong side of what Liverpool had been on, which was not subjectivity, I keep saying it to other people, it was fact. He was onside. It was a clear mistake by the referees to not do it. Then you could have a bit more of an argument. This thing about clubs releasing statements is super interesting. I don't like it in one way, because I do believe that you have to kind of still respect referees' decisions, but also respect is earned, and you gain respect not because you wear the colour shirt and you give cards out, by making the right decisions and good decisions. I just want to touch on it now because I'm sure we'll get to it. Is the Chelsea Spurs game. When he's about to send them off, Romero, he pulled Son first, the skipper, and he went to Son. Listen, here's the reason why I'm sending him off. Then went to Romero, come here, then sent him. So he's got and I thought, that's great refereeing. So that's where the respect's earned, because you went, you know what, I'm pulling the skipper because it's all got a bit convoluted with the goal that wasn't a goal and stuff like that kind of stuff. That's where the respect's earned. We all know this season that the refereeing has not been up to par. It's been poor. And some of the decisions are absolutely laughable. So what's happening is now we are in week 11 and the frustration is getting up to tenfold already. Now, again, it looks like to me every single time we have an international break, the referees need one. Like, you need just to chill out for 2 weeks so we can just forget about how shit you are. You know what I mean? So in one way, for the Arsenal, we can all laugh at them and stuff like that because what he said, and, we can all point score, let's say. It's a bad decision. Is it the worst decision of the weekend? Not really, in my opinion. So, I don't know, mate. I don't like clubs releasing statements. I don't. But I also think the referees also need to be more accountable. But again, respect is earned, and you earn respect off players when you go, you know what, lads, you've done us one there, or you've done us a favour there, and you've kind of given me one kind of deal, and by refereeing it well. Again, I go back to that Oliver incident because it is fresh in my head. Brilliant refereeing, like brilliant. He didn't take the sting out of the game, but he said, I've got to send them. Where I personally would have just let the goal count. But that's the problem with the laws of the game. We can get onto this game now because it is important that we get onto it. The laws of the game, I don't know what you think. I just gave the goal. I went, I'm not sending him. I'm going to keep this a spectacle. We're just going to give him the goal. He's slightly offside. Jackson's barely involved in the play. If he is even involved in the play, I don't know. His arse is offside. People forget this. The offside rule was made, so people just didn't stand at the other edge of the goal. The goalkeeper
Correct.
And heads the ball in. And now we're trying to measure people's fingernails.
It wasn't intended to stop goals from occurring. It was intended to stop guys from basket hanging and creating an unbalance where defenders have to spend half the game down the pitch to wait for the last asshole who doesn't want to run back, because Michael Owens has never got past the halfway line. Like, that's why we have this rule in the game, right? Like, it has nothing to do.
That's my point, though, Gal, right? Do you reckon that's where the laws are too stringent? Where a referee years ago could have went, you know what? I know, for example, I always go back to the 05 Chelsea semi-final game for the Garcia goal. And you didn't go across the line. When the referee came out after the match and went, well, I was going to send John Terry off, Chekhov for the foul on Barros.
Chekhov, yeah.
And he said, so I wanted to actually keep it a spectacle. Liverpool get a pen. Chelsea go down to 10. What's the point? I thought that today, as much as Romero should have been sent off, and it's a bad challenge, and he should walk. The point is, though, if you're a referee, sometimes you've got to go, you know what, Romero, I'm booking you for it, but I'm going to give you the goal. So that's where double jeopardy could come in. Do you get what I mean? Where you go, you know what, you've been pushing enough with the goal because it's 1-0 now and you've got to, you know what I mean? I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but the referee hasn't got enough, chance to bend the rules a little bit, you know what I mean? Not bend them, but, use discretion.
Yeah, he or she, in this instance, has the ability to not change the entire outcome of the match by making the decision that the letter of the law says he or she has to make. And I feel like in this case, because Michael Oliver knew that VAR was going to look at every angle 9 times and chalk that goal off if it had to be, and then he got told it was getting chalked off, there was no... Once that happens, he knows, well, now I have no choice. And then they're like, well, we think you should take a look at this. Yeah. And then as soon as you look at it, it wasn't even, and it was the second red card challenge for Romero in the game. He lashes out at the player earlier. Yeah. He really should have been sent off for that. The fact that VAR didn't send him off for that one, where he literally just gives a karate chop with a cleat at someone. And it's so sad too for Spurs supporters. It must be, because the kid looks the part. He's good looking. He's tall. He's strong. He can score a goal, but he has a red card in him. Not every minute. He has 2 for every minute of every match he plays.
I call him the South American Dejan Lovren. Honestly, he all the ability in the world, but then just does something mad. And you're like, oh, nice one, Dejan.
You just can't win with him.
Yeah,
I don't think you can win with a player like that.
You can't trust him. That's the problem. Yeah, I'm with you.
So if we take this match, Spurs go up early. Romero arguably should be sent off.
Chelsea
Chelsea gets 2 goals chalked off. One obviously for offside, or one for a foul in the build-up, or a handball on Sterling. Which looked like one of those harsh ones that bounces up, it hits his hand, but the rule says, right, like you say, the rules are too stringent for refs to make logical decisions anymore.
Yeah.
Then we chalk off the offsides goal.
Yeah.
Then we award the red card.
Yeah.
And a penalty. Cole Palmer steps up and buries it.
Just.
And then Udogie goes and gets himself 2 yellow cards, one of which could have been a straight red.
Yes. How it's not is unbelievable.
I still, it's a 2-footed tackle. At that point, it has to be purely that, Michael Oliver doesn't want himself to be any more part of the story.
Before that, though, Levi Colwell nearly gets himself sent off getting into an argument when they're only down to 10 men on the stroke of half time. That's naivety of the kid. Then I think, okay, he's just a kid. He's got involved, and Fair play to Pochettino, subs him at half time. Great management. And then your captain, Reece James, goes and elbows another player, looks at him and elbows him in the face. And then you're like, bro, they're down to 10 men. They're playing literally on the halfway line. Spurs, you will win this game comfortably with just a couple of brain cells in your head. You'll win this game comfortably.
And your captain.
That's your skipper. And then he's elbowing someone in the head. And I'm like, how has he got away with that one? Like, I don't understand anymore. How are you getting away with this shit? Like, consistently, the inconsistency is mad. So Udogie should go for the first one. He goes for the second one, which, yeah. But I also think, by the way, the second one's slightly harsh, that's a yellow. I thought that was a little, it wasn't like, oh my God, that's a definite yellow. It's like, well, yeah, that's another thing. Does the referee see the Udogie one, the first one at half time, and go, hey lads, where were you on that one? Fucking hell, I could have sent him there, you know, I should have sent him. And then he's probably went, fuck me, I've got half a chance to send him, I'm sending him. You know what I mean?
That's always where my problem is, that I feel like they go into the half, they see what they see, then they're like, well, we got to make this right. And it just doesn't make sense. One thing I will say, for a second, we'll go off the officiating. And we don't need to talk about Nicholas Jackson's 3 tap-ins. You know, all Nicholas Jackson needed to do to find his way at Chelsea was play against 9-men Spurs without any defenders and losing Maddison and having everyone on their side booked. But I will say, you know, this is a bad one for Spurs. Yep. They lose Romero for 3. They lose Udogie for 1. They're now down Van de Ven, which clearly did his hamstring. That's trouble. And that kid has pace on pace and has looked like a world beater so far. What a signing he's been.
He looks like January, you'd say. January at least.
Yeah. And to lose Maddison to a non-contact ankle injury. And Maddison's been so important to them so far. To your point earlier, you know, Ange rolled the ball out. It also helped that he had new playmakers like Maddison to be like, go make some things happen. Have fun. Enjoy your football. You know, you play in a pretty stadium in a nice part of London. Enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
Anyone who's been there knows it isn't that nice part of London. But Cole Palmer.
Yeah.
Can we talk about a kid here? Like, very rarely does a player force his way to a move to Chelsea and make me say, like, wow, that was a good move by him. But clearly, this kid knew he had the skills to play in the Premier League, believed in himself, which I love when a player bets on themselves, and also must have gotten some word from Pochettino that, like, you will be a big, big part of my plans. Because to walk away from a fringe role at City for what looked like a fringe role at Chelsea isn't exactly a lateral move, but he has hit the ground running, and it looks a worldie of a move.
Yeah, he's got all the ability in the world to be a top side. I think the money was too good for City to turn down still because he's still unproven.
Of course.
But the other part is they just got rid of Mahrez on your side. So I felt like there was going to be more game time for you there at City. And I'd much rather play for City than Chelsea because it just seems like more of a laugh to play for City than Chelsea. But he actually looks like a player to me that in 3 years, if Salah leaves, he'd be top 3 in your list to replace Salah on that side, with cutting in on his left foot. You'd actually look at him and go, he would be very high on my list, at least. Even, I don't know what, you know, we all expect Chelsea to fall apart in the next 3 years anyway, so hopefully that does happen, then we can get him for about 12 million. But yeah, he's top ability. The Jackson one, just exactly what he needed. But let's get it right, and we can all laugh. And he has all the ability in the world. This kid, he is quick. He has got a nice little touch. He is something about this kid. They play City at the Bridge next week. I want their striker scoring a hat trick now. Now you can go and get a load.
Absolutely.
Go and get a load of confidence and go and play against these lads, please. I want you tearing them. I want you tearing them up next week. But going back to the Spurs thing with the injuries, mate, it's important to mention. It just fell apart for them a little bit. But the positives are Dyer looked great when he came on, considering he's hardly had any, football. He looked really good. But Emerson Royale, we've seen enough of to kind of write him off as what he is, which is a box standard middle of the road centre half. But Spurs fans have been having a lovely time. And there's something about watching your football match and having a lovely time watching football. And That's what it was. I remember the first season on the clock. Well, the second season, technically, his first full season when Salah got 44. It was a lovely time. There was loads of little moments in that season. We
Yeah,
finished
it didn't matter what happened, really. It was just everything was good. It was just fun because it felt good to watch football again because you actually enjoyed it.
That's
The
my
whole
point.
match. You enjoyed the build-up.
Every single game you was watching this lad to tear teams up, and you were losing games sometimes 4-2, but he'd score 2 and that kind of weird results. But it's just a lovely time to be a fan. And everyone always goes back to those seasons, like the 18, when we lost to Madrid in the final. That was a lovely season watching them, and it was just so it does get to those moments for Spurs. Spurs' target was always top 4, and it probably still is top 4. Depending, of course, on other things now with the centre halves. Spurs probably want to be the worst case scenario, 6 points off 4th by January, so you can go and get yourself a centre half if Van der Ven is out for a long time. Because if you have got the money there to go and really do a big one, I'm talking like a good one to go, you know what? This is wide open now. City have lost a few games. It looks like the league's going to be 185. Everyone's kind of beating everyone. They might have half a chance to really kick it on. But it's going to be interesting to see how they respond. It really is.
So we don't have time to go through the top and the bottom half of the table like we usually do to wrap up the show. So we'll focus on the business end of this table, the one that actually has a little bit of teeth in it right now. Big result for Sheffield United to get the win over Wolves. The late goals was huge. Burnley, I couldn't have been more wrong. Me and you both here, man. We both picked Burnley to do well, said they'd have no problem. Not looking good. Just a weird one. And then Bournemouth Luton. I know how much you want Everton in that bottom 3 by the end of the season, but with the way these results are going, how they're squeaking out some results and we both said if Dominic Calvert-Lewin plays 25 games, they'll score enough goals to stay up.
Yeah.
Is it 3 of these bottom 4 at this point? And if you were putting Cozzy dollars on it right now, which of those 4 terrible teams between 17 and 20 do I have to plan on Liverpool playing twice next year and me probably not being happy with either result?
I think the 3 promoted sides go down. The first time in years. I think they're probably the 3 poorest sides that have come up, because I think Bournemouth will sack the manager and then just get someone in there, again, who just looks half decent, like Gary O'Neill, for example.
If only they could hire Gary O'Neill. He's sitting in 14th, who will quickly find himself out of that mistake.
Having a lovely time, especially the Wolves fans, will feel like, you know what, we weren't expecting this. They've been on the wrong. They've been on some harsh ends of some decisions as well, Wolves, in the last few weeks. Burnley have super surprised me, right? Because I'm a bit like you. I thought they wouldn't have a problem. I was thinking middle of the road, 12th to 8th kind of deal.
Yep.
There's a few things here about them. Number one, I can't believe how small they are. They all look like a gang of midgets every time I watch them. No one looks over the size of 6'2". Genuinely, like they all look like young, like number 10 kind of kid players. Number 2, the lack of Premier League experience in that squad is damning to me. When I look at Luton, for example, I thought the best player on the pitch yesterday was Ross Barkley. I know we can laugh at that, right, all you like, but I thought he was excellent. I really thought he was good yesterday for Luton. That's a clever signing. They just done Andros Townsend, who played well for an hour. Clever signing. Sheffield United even brought Tom Davison and like a little bit of Premier League experience in there. There's no Premier League experience in that squad, really, apart from Jay Rodriguez, and there's a few little Gudmundsons played, whatever you like. But I'm talking like, so for example, let me, throw a couple of names like Lingard. Couldn't do a Lingard. I know Lingard wanted crazy money for Saudi, but I'm talking in the summer. Couldn't you get a Lingard over the line? Who's been there and done it? Kind of deal, like those kind of players. Oxlade-Chamberlain. Could you get him over the line?
He had to go to Besiktas. You couldn't bring in a guy like him and just make him your captain.
You go to Oxlade-Chamberlain. You don't even need to move house. You're 45 minutes away from Burnley. You don't even need to move house. Just stay where you are and have a lovely time. Do you know what I mean? Like that kind of like, for example, Milner. He's played with company. They play with like they're on the same team. Can't you go to Milner? Hey, don't need to move house, fella. Come up here, young lads, bit of experience in certain games to get us over the line, kind of deal. Listen, I'm sure Milner would prefer to play for Brighton. I've got no issue with that at all. But I just feel like there was players out there where they could have picked up, and really got that experience. But they look like to me, mate, the 3 promoted sides are probably the worst that we've had. I think there's a stat out there that after 11 games, it's the least amount of points 3 promoted sides have ever brought up, I think.
Yeah, they have had. I saw the stat the other day before this week where Luton got the point and Sheffield United picked up 3. They had basically had. So it was 7. It was like 12 total points out of 30 matches and a possible 60. And 1 out of 5 was the least amount of points ever acquired. And to me, it's almost the problem is they haven't even looked competitive.
Yeah.
And like you can argue, like, you know, even Luton's victory against Everton going up 2-0, it took a comedy of errors and mistakes to happen. And again, Dominic Calvert-Lewin not in the lineup. And if he is, they probably score a goal that game, and who knows how that thing ends. So like I really believe this could be like 3 of the like worst. I don't even think we have a relegation battle by the end of the season. Like I think Bournemouth is safe with 2-3 weeks to go, which is scary how bad this league is at the bottom.
Yeah.
But also why I think it's important that the bigger sides start to recognize that we need to get these matches. So obviously, we'll be back next week. We'll be talking about all the matches.
Yeah.
Chelsea Man City will definitely be one of the big matches, especially coming off this weekend. Other than the Chelsea Man City match, and of course, you know, how attached we are to Liverpool Brentford. Which of these matches is the one that most excites Cozzy? Is it Arsenal Burnley for the matchup and for 2 teams that both need a win? Is it Bournemouth Newcastle because Bournemouth can't keep dropping points? Yeah. Maybe Villa rebounding. Where do you lie on what the most exciting one is? With our last minute here.
Wolves Spurs. I think I want to see how Spurs react. Let's see what you're about now. Times got tough today. You've got your injuries, you've got your sending offs. You've got to go to Wolves and win, because you don't want to lose 2 on the bounce before you know, and then of course go into an international break on the back of 2 losses, which I think is big. I do want to mention actually, because I think it's really interesting that Newcastle get the R5 kickoff again. Just, you know, prime time Saudi Arabia. Yeah, interesting that, isn't it? That they've had the R5.
Yeah, they're not messing around. They're not messing around at all with how they're shifting.
They're not even trying to hide it. They're just like, yeah, go on, you can have that. You know, prime time Saudi, we'll put you on there. You got a little dubious decisions to get you 1-0 against Arsenal. Lovely stuff.
As long as they're taking points against Arsenal, I'm probably not that worried about it, because I don't think Newcastle can win this league yet. But it's coming, people. Don't kid yourself if you don't think it is. Speaking of kid yourselves, don't kid yourself if you don't think you're getting a plug. Please get out to the YouTube page. Get over there. Smash that subscribe button. Like it, comment, share. If you know a Premier League supporter who you think would enjoy this program, please bring them into it. We share this each and every week. And of course, you can always catch our morning coffee shows Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 10 Central, 9 Eastern. And of course, 10 Eastern, 9 Central. We'll get our time zones here at American Scouts Are Right eventually. And as always, our Monday and Thursday podcast, our fantasy show. So for myself and Cozzy, thank you for viewing. We will be back next week, and have a great week.